We'll go ahead and call this regular session to order. Yuma County Board of Supervisors also sitting as Special Taxing District, February 6th, 2023, 9 a.m. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Vice Chair, Jonathan Lyons, can you please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I'm going to be saying that.
I'll go ahead and move on to call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for future discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email. Public comment at yumacountyaz.gov. The emails, forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that start at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any? We do not. I do have a speaker form, Gail Castricone.
Thank you. So good.
I heard Tony so many times.
I'm doing it wrong.
I wasn't even trying anymore.
Well, good morning. My name is Gail Castricone. I am the neighborhood advocate for Avenue B and C Colonia Butterfly Project Program. I pray that all of you will have a blessed Valentine's Day. It is a wonderful day to celebrate our love one for another. The ultimate example of love is Jesus, who gave his life for us. He asks us to do the same, loving our neighbor as ourselves, doing good to others, even if they don't deserve it. There is so much evil in the B&C Colonia Park, BAM Park. On October 16, 2022, the Yuma Sun did an article on BAM Park. It noted that there are unsafe conditions dangerous to human health and public welfare. Supervisor Lyons called it a dangerous place to live, noting that they looked up the number of police calls at the park. He said, "I'm concerned about that because of the rapid deterioration." Supervisor Pancrazzi, who testified in the case against the property owner, said, "I want to move on to the court. I'm done." Well, unfortunately, still, we do not have a court date, and it's been 4 months. Do you ever stop to think about the terror that the children in the BAM Park and the children in the surrounding area feel? On a consistent basis, there are gunshots, deaths, people high on drugs and selling drugs, fires and squatters. Just Saturday night, my daughter's less than our family home. She lives in our family home and just less than a block away. And right there by Ferguson's ditch in the lot, there were 7 shots fired and in concession, and then 2 more. And everybody hit the ground in the house, and the neighbor called, and she's a teenager, and she was terrified, and she said, "I'm laying on the floor, I'm so scared." So this BAM Park and all the things that are happening are just getting common day occurrences anymore. These children are victims and subjected to violence. Are these children any less important than the children in your neighborhood? Between county supervisors, administrator, health department, sheriff's office, DDS, WACOG, the fire, rural metro, fire code officials, you would think that after the last 3 years that these families would have been taken to a safer environment. The BAM Park needs to be shut down. Loving our neighbors means that we protect the most vulnerable. So I am asking you to help us as a community to end this insane situation at the BAM Park. Now, that would be the ultimate gift of love for these families. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Gail. Those comments are taken and recorded, so, well, thank you. Josh?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Josh Scott, Deputy County Administrator. I wanted to let you all know that Vice Chairman Lyons received a commendation from Governor Ducey recently, and I wanted to read that for you all and into the record. Commendation. Be it known to all that Jonathan Lyons is awarded this certificate in recognition for dedicated service to the state of Arizona. Thank you for serving the people of Arizona and the office of Governor Douglas A. Ducey. The hours you devoted, your commitment to public service, and your invaluable assistance is greatly appreciated. On behalf of the citizens of the state of Arizona and myself, I thank you and commend you for your admirable service. Best wishes in your career and continued success in all future endeavors. Signed, Douglas A. Ducey.
All right, congratulations. That's a little different. I thought it was a beard.
You want a picture with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Picture.
You want to take the picture, Lynn?
Yes.
Go hide over here, you know.
Yeah, we'll get behind
Get
you.
in the picture.
Let's go get
Stand up.
the
Wait, okay.
Take one picture with Scott and then, what is it, reclamation?
There we go.
Then we'll take a picture.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Just come get in.
You have to break
We
up
work,
the
together.
other.
We work together. Just come get in.
Okay, Kika. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kika.
Congratulations. I hope you didn't get that notice like the check's in the mail. The government sent you
Nothing in the
one.
mail.
You have to wait.
You know, I'll say, since Jonathan, even before he joined the board, he's done so much for this community, but also with for the state. But he got on with Yuma County, and I mean, you came in running. So thanks,
Joaquin.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carla Vasquez. I am the benefits coordinator here with Yuma County. Today, we are here to share with you a little bit about what we did to end the year for our wellness program. We normally like to have around 4 food drives or different types of philanthropic events to assist the community in need. Today, we're here to congratulate everybody who participated and award our top 3 teams. I have Alejandra Jimenez with me, benefits specialist, and she is going to be awarding everybody who won.
Thank you. So yes, we do have our top 3 teams from county, which the 3rd place will go to Public Defenders. The team name was Hunger Defenders.
Hunger Defenders, are you here?
They donated
I'll take it and there we go.
150 pounds.
150 pounds.
Woof.
Take this one.
2nd place will go to Juvenile. They donated 395 pounds.
I think one of the hungry defendants came in or.
First place will go to Engineering. They donated 743 pounds.
All right.
Where's Frank?
It was a team effort. That, they need to get a picture.
Yes, we need to get a picture with
Yes.
everyone. And as Yuma County, we donated all together.
1,356 pounds.
Woo!
Thank you, everyone.
Someone here from the public defender?
Yes. Anybody from Public Defenders? Yeah,
That's the
good.
combined weight of all of us. 1,000 pounds. I will stand up. We'll stand behind them.
Yeah, let's stand up behind him.
And come together and stand behind.
Squeeze a little.
Come on, Lynn.
I'm coming.
I thought when they said 1,000 pounds, they're talking about a weight. Congratulations, guys, all of you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Drop.
Thank you.
We're just very grateful for all Yuma County and court employees who always participate in our philanthropic events. And then we do also have a certificate for a department who didn't win this time, but participated. Human Resources.
Human Resources.
Like, they would have a keyboard. They really did beat us.
Suspicious. They're the ones doing the event.
Thank you. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
your time.
We want a certificate for listening to all this stuff.
And this just shows how Yuma County is always helping out this community, the employees, the staff, everybody that helps. Thank you, really. It really makes a difference. Anybody else from the public? I'll keep the call to the public open to the end of the meeting. We'll move on to consent agenda. No, presentation and proclamations and appointments. Anybody needs to appoint? Or not-
Let me ask a question. Is the appointment for the merit board, does it need to be put in the agenda or can it be made at any time?
Yes, it needs to be an agenda.
All right, okay, got it.
All right. Presentation of the Yuma County line.
Changes to downtown are underway as building demolition soon begins. Find out why the Yuma County Main Library recently held a ribbon cutting ceremony. And Yuma County's tax lien auction is coming up. We've got the details. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Pilkington Construction is getting ready to demolish the structures between 185 and 197 South Main Street to make room for the new Yuma County Administration Services building. Fencing will be erected around the site in upcoming weeks. A walk-through tunnel will allow safe access between the Legacy Building and the Regency Main Street Cinemas. A crosswalk will be added in the middle of the block between Cafecito and the northwest corner of the construction site. The front of the project site, along a portion of Main Street, the south side, and the surrounding sidewalks will be closed.
So we have a subcontractor who is providing safety and traffic signage all across the site and around the perimeter of the site, which will guide vehicle drivers to safe passage around the project site.
Pilkington estimates that it will take about 2 years to finish construction on the new county facility, which will house several county departments and divisions. If you have any questions or issues in the meantime about the construction project, send an email to 197project@yumacountyaz.gov. The Main Library and the Yuma Library Foundation held a ribbon-cutting ceremony to mark the grand opening of their new Media Studio Room. Located inside the main library, the Media Studio Room and Arizona Room offer dedicated equipment, computers, software, and space for production and editing. The Media Studio Room has all the equipment needed to produce a demo or launch a podcast. For vlogging and YouTube needs, there's a green screen set up with 2 softboxes and stands.
This was provided from funds from a grant, so you have to have a valid library card and sign an agreement to utilize this Media Studio Room.
The Arizona Room is equipped with a ThinkStation P348 tower workstation with many editing software options. The Media Studio was made possible by funding provided by the Yuma Library Foundation.
They provided $25,000 in honor of their 25 years of supporting the Library Foundation. And so I presented the idea to them, and they were excited to fund the program.
If you'd like information on what you need to do to use the Media Studio Room, contact the main library at 928-782-1871. One of the main ways we support our community is by paying our property taxes. But what if we don't pay those taxes? After extensive efforts to work with the delinquent property owners, the county may have to sell the lien to an investor. The new lien holder then pays the owed taxes. The Yuma County Treasurer will hold their tax lien auction on February 16th for investors that may be interested. You can learn more by visiting the Treasurer's web pages at yumacountyaz.gov.
Hi, I'm Mary, and this is your Health Watch. Please join the Yuma County Health District this month in raising awareness about heart disease and stroke for American Heart Month. Did you know that in your lifetime, your heart beats around 2.5 billion times and works every second of the day? This is why taking care of your heart now is so important in order to prevent heart disease. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, people who live in rural areas have an increased risk of death from preventable disease, including heart disease and stroke. Taking time to care for your heart can be challenging as you go about daily life. Be active, move at least 30 minutes a day, eat heart-healthy foods such as fresh fruits and vegetables, avoid tobacco, know your numbers, visit your doctor regularly, and get your blood pressure checked. The first step can be hard, but it can be the first step to becoming a healthier you. For more information, please visit www.heart.org. That is all for now. Stay healthy, Yuma.
Before we head out, there are some important dates coming up that you might want to know about. The next regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors will be held on Wednesday, February 22nd. That's because Monday the 20th is President's Day, and most county offices will be closed in observance. Thank you for joining us for this County Line. We'd like to know of any story ideas you may have. And if you're looking for stories we've covered in the past, log on to our website at yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We'll see you on the next County Line.
All right. Moving on to consent agenda. We'll go ahead and there's 1 to 14 items.
I'll ask number 5 to be
Number-
single out. 5 and 10.
5 and 10.
Did you make up my mind?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve items as presented with the exception of 5 and 10.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve items 1 to 14, except 5, item number 5, and item number 10.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
I like the library, all the new updated library rules and regs. They're, yes, some of the changes were very much needed. So, thank you. Okay, sorry.
That's all right. Hey. All those in favor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go ahead and pull out item number 5, and we got representatives from the Kashan tribe. We got Dono, John, and Sion. If you wanna step up.
There's
Well,
three
okay.
of them. There's 3 folks.
I pulled it up because I think it's important to recognize when, people in the community contribute to more people in the community. And this has been something that we're very thankful for the Quechan tribe to allow us to pick who that money is going to go to. I think that the food bank is a worthy recipient of the money. And I just didn't want this to go by without giving the recognition to the tribe and its representatives. And, I hope thank the food bank at the same time for all the work they do. If there's always a time of need, but it seems like that need it's not reduced, it just increases. So thank you very much for the Cocopah tribe on behalf of the board. And and hope, we know that the food bank is going to use the money wisely.
Mr. Chairman.
John, what-
As the chairman, I want to recognize Shara sitting in the back, but as the chairman of the food bank, I am extremely happy to recognize the tribe and their care and dedication of this community, and wanted to step up and say thank you. It means the world to us that you are our community partners in providing for the less fortunate, so thank you very much.
Donald, if you want to step up or say, or any words?
There's
Wasn't
three.
really planning on speaking, but thank you very much for your partnership and your continued support of the tribe. And we're looking forward to continuing our relationship with you. And I think it's an amazing thing. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Can we take a picture?
Shara, do you want to say anything, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Briefly, thank you. Our square miles that we served this month, or excuse me, last month, was 5,500 miles. That's pretty much every square mile of Yuma County. So this money will come in greatly into your earlier comment. Yeah, the need doesn't go away. So thank you, and we thank the Fish-On as well.
Let me take a picture.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and second to accept it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I don't have a big
I
check.
think
do
the
we?
attorney wants to say something, but.
No, he just wanted to make sure we
He
voted.
He just says, is there any discussion on the item? I'd be leery of this picture, guys. Don't show it to everybody.
I win.
Hi, Lynn. Nice to meet you. I'm Zion.
Send a big guy. You can't argue with him. I'm coming in there. Things that can come a lot worse. Come on, you guys got it screwed in. You can't take that picture like that. Oh, shoot. At the chairman, I gotta lean back. My wallet is protected.
Thank you.
I'm not moving. Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you. Great to be here.
It was good seeing you again.
More music.
I gotta make the sheriff come over. Oh, is there anyone from the sheriff's office?
Yeah. Captain's here. Sheriff's in D.C. Talking before Congress, I guess.
See it.
Item number 10.
Yeah, it's called approve the county sheriff's office shift differential specialty assignment pay plans effective February the 5th, 2023. Is there anyone? Oh, yeah, there he is.
Yep.
Look, the only reason I brought it up, or I asked for it to come out here, it's not because I have a major concern with the additional pay for this different shifts. It's whether that's being used as a tool to recruit people. Are we basically saying this applies only to people who work here, or are we saying the new hires are going to get this pay shift differential?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. To answer your question, Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, yes, it is going to be used for a recruitment and retention tool. We did a survey through Human Resources, through other agencies throughout the county and surrounding counties, and a lot of the agencies are doing that, and we feel it's easier to retain our current personnel and recruit new and up-and-coming personnel if we are giving them the incentives to work the shifts that nobody wants to work or do the specialized areas above and beyond what their normal duties as a deputy is.
Okay, so what I guess the answer is yes, we're gonna use it as a tool to recruit new people by telling them, look, you will make whatever you make, but, you know, we have a differential, or is that included in their salary scale? I mean, because the county is really complex in how it pays its people. There's a salary scale, there's no bonuses, you know, so we talked about a pay differential. What would that be considered legally? I'm talking to John. What would a pay differential or a specialty assignment pay plan be considered under? Is it under rules and regulations? Is it something that we don't have a problem doing?
It's
just a pay policy that exists within the specific department or office. It's unique to the sheriff's office. And, we're okay with it.
So we have a policy that covers that. We have a human resource policy that covers
And
that.
I believe sheriff's office runs their HR internally.
Internally within them?
Their office itself.
I just wanted to sort of let the rest of the Yuma County employees know that if there's a possibility that we can use that, we'll use it, especially for those plants where, people have very, very difficult shifts. I mean, midnight shifts, afternoon shifts that last until midnight. They certainly tend to be a little hard on the family. So I personally think that that's great that we're acknowledging the fact that some people, we're shifting a lot to people working at home. That's not something people like the sheriff's department can do or detention officers can do from home. This is a very, very intensive, very, very difficult job you guys do. And so anything we can do to make the job easier or to make it easier for you guys to hire people or retain people, we'd be glad to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and approve the Yuma County Sheriff's Office shift differential.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good
Thank
day.
you. Motion carries. I'll go ahead and recess the the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting and convene to Yuma County Housing Board, and we'll call Virginia Garcia to.
We'll have the vice chair pull up the chair.
Hi.
Can you get it past me?
I didn't want to go overhead, so let's see.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, go. Pull it in. Now you can get it.
Oh, now we know why the governor gave you that recognition.
Yeah.
You're good at that.
Good chair mover. Good chair mover.
The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for a separate discussion and action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just simply state that most of these items are really items that we take up every year. They're pretty much on a consent agenda because, if we have any questions, we'd have to pull it out and discuss it at length. And I think come on, Mr. Roldan.
Roldan.
Mr. Roldan, Jesus Roldan is here to answer any questions. I don't think if you have any questions, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented. But I'd like to at least acknowledge what it is. One is housing, adopt and authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 2023-03, approving the amended low rent public housing admissions and continued occupancy policy according to the most recent federal regulations for the 3 Yuma County Housing Department developments, Valley Vista Apartments, Moctezuma Apartments, and Pecan Shadow Apartments. The second one's adopt resolution number 2023-04, approving the amended section 8 administrative plan for the Yuma County Housing Department Housing Choice Voucher Program. And number 3, it would be resolution number 2023-05, approving the Yuma County Housing Department Public Housing Agency annual plans for fiscal year 2023 and related certifications and agreements with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Well, that was a long one. Okay, and I'd like to make a motion, we approve the consent items as presented.
There's a motion, and there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That was very painful right there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
One more time, Lynn.
Okay.
He only took him with one try, and if he did it, I did that.
That worked.
I'm getting better.
We'll reconvene back to the regular Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting and move on to this discussion and actions items. And we have public health, item number 1. It's been a while.
Hi, how is everybody?
Good, nice to see you.
Can I say something before you begin?
Sure.
Well, I just want to acknowledge the retirement of your deputy director, Maria Nunez. She's been working for the county for she would say way too long. I can't admit, discuss how many years she's been there, but, it's kind of tough losing the deputy director. So we want to congratulate her on her retirement, and I'm sure that the Quishan and the Cocopa are going to be happy about that. And so, we wish her the best. I personally wish her the best, and I think the board wishes her the best. And obviously, you're going to have to work twice as hard now.
It was a very well-deserved retirement, but she's just been such an integral part. She's gone through 2 pandemics, so the knowledge base there was
We can tell from her looks.
Okay, anyhow. And she wouldn't let me announce it before, so that's why we couldn't say anything. She's used to working behind the scenes, and she kind of wanted it that way. So. But she's gone now, so can't be upset. Okay, good morning, Chairman Porches, members of the board. Diana Gomez, Director of Public Health. Just an update regarding our numbers. Our positivity rate is decreasing. We've seen a decrease in our flu cases as well, 33% decrease from last week. So we're moving, I think everybody got sick around that period right after Thanksgiving. Same thing for our COVID testing results. We saw that peak. We were about 25% of all tests around Thanksgiving were coming back positive. We're down to around 9%. So we're moving in the right direction. Again, that's good news. People are resuming at the beginning of the year. As you know, President Biden announced that there will be an end to the Emergency National Public Health Declaration, and that's going to take place May 11th. So there'll be some changes that go along with that. We are still going to, as long as we have our supply of federally purchased vaccines, we will continue to provide those. There'll be some changes to insurance, but again, I can have a more detailed outline for you, but those are not set to take place until that order expires in May. So if you have some questions, you still haven't gotten your boosters, some of those things that you have been meaning or are putting off, you've been meaning to get to, now's the time to go ahead and schedule those appointments. Lots of people still have those walk-in clinics. I know we do. We've been going out to the community. So please schedule those now. If you have any questions, please reach out to our department. We'd be happy to answer any questions for you. As you saw in the Health Watch, this month, in theme with Valentine's Day, is We Love Your Heart Month is what we're celebrating. So we are going to go ahead and host a free Love Your Heart event here in partnership with Human Resources. It'll be in this auditorium on February 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's an opportunity for employees or anybody from the public to come get their blood pressure checked. Your blood pressure is a good indicator of your health. A lot of times when you have high blood pressure, people don't know about it. They're unaware. There's not symptoms unless it's really, really high. But it's a good marker for your health, and there's a lot that can be done if it's high to manage it so that you can have good health. We'll also be having an event at AWC. Just some other quick updates. We continue to partner with a lot of our community agencies. It was something that we started during the pandemic, just expanding that outreach. But we will be doing some vaccine clinics, partnering with Sunset and WACOG. We will also be partnering with Campesinos Sin Fronteras to do some events. And I think when Tony comes up here, you'll hear we're also emergency management and our public health preparedness program will be having an exercise in medical countermeasures, point of dispensing. And that's, again, if there's a big event, the opportunity to train other partners in the community to be able to dispense those medications or whatever's needed. So again, increasing that outreach and those collaborative opportunities to expand the reach and make sure that anybody who needs services has access to those. So if you have any questions or anybody in the public wants to host an event or wants to learn how they can partner, please call our office, 928-317-4550. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, if a person wants to get vaccinated, other than the clinics you have already, 1 or 2 clinics that you're doing, clinics at locations, they have to make an appointment now?
So, and the only reason I'm saying that is because you can walk in and you can do that, but we don't want you to wait. So a lot of times it's just a lot easier to make that appointment. We have, everybody sometimes shows up right after school or right between that gap. We want to be respectful of people's time. So we always encourage you to make an appointment. And then we have those clinics that we're partnering, for example, we're going to some of the schools where parents requested that. And so we're doing that in partnership with the schools. And so that's a way to minimize, you don't have to pick up your child, take them out of school. We're just at the site. So those are the kind of things that, we realize everybody's busy. We don't want that to be a deterrent. So whenever we can have something in place to just expedite it and make it easier for you, we want to do that.
Do you have any information about what kind of vaccines people can get if they have them?
So if you go on our website, you can see a detailed listing of our vaccines, but mostly preventable vaccines for school-age children, anybody under the age of 18. It's anything that's required by the school district. For adults, the selection is still there, but it's a lot more narrow, and part of it is because a lot of people get those vaccines from their primary care provider. So we want to have that available to the public. We have like pneumonia vaccine or Tdap or some of those general vaccines that most people need, Hep B, Hep A, that you might need for work. But again, the variety is not as wide, only because a lot of people get those during their primary care visits or as part of that. But go on our website, you can see exactly what we offer.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you then.
Thank you very much.
Tony, any?
Damn, Tony. There is Tony right there.
Tony Padilla, Director of Emergency Management, Yuma County. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Diana covered almost all of it, I think everything, unless you have any questions of me.
Any reports on the border situation?
The only thing I can tell you is when Title 42 implemented, the last meeting I had, they said 98% reduction for those coming from Title 42 countries across the border. That's not just Yuma County, but across the border. So has reduced the numbers. I think people are going through the process now. That doesn't mean our numbers aren't continuing to have people coming across. I don't have those numbers for you for January yet.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I can report on the numbers for the last part of January. We're averaging now 400 a day, and that's down from 1,000 to 1,200. January typically has been lower, and we are seeing more people from different countries than we've ever seen before. If people apply online using the app, a max of 40 people are accepted at Mariposa Port. It's the only port in Arizona that is allowing people to show up and apply for processing there. But we've seen an overall reduction in January.
That's correct.
We're going to Washington in a few days. Some of us are going to Washington. One of the things that I like to mention whenever that is discussed is that we will continue having this crisis as long as Congress doesn't do their job, which is to actually implement some sort of reform that is going to allow these people to do it. I mean, there's always going to be, I've been around for 40 years in politics, there's always going to be some sort of crisis, some sort of rush of people that come to the border. That's almost inevitable when the system, the regular system, the legal system takes so long to get through, years to get through. So it's going to be a problem that we eventually we're going to have to deal with. I hope the numbers will get to a point where it's somewhat manageable, but we got to keep insisting that this problem, it's a federal problem. It shouldn't be something that we have to deal with every day. Communities don't, just because they're border communities, don't need to be punished for being just border communities. It's a problem again, which the roots of a problem are not being dealt with. We're dealing with the symptoms of the problem here, and that's really a problem that's not necessarily going to go away. It's going to ebb and flow depending on the processes that are created by either the administration through executive action or Congress through some sort of action. I've for so long I've listened to the congressmen always talk about security at the border. Well, security at the border really depends a lot on whether people are willing to do whatever it takes to get through the border. So security is just a key word, and I wish everybody would get past the security and solve the problem as it is. It's a more than a security problem. It is a security problem, but it's also a human problem. Yes.
Mr. Chair, my concern is with all the people that are coming across currently, our Border Patrol are not being able to do the job that were tasked for. And so there's a lot of illegal drugs coming across our border that usually we can stop because our Border Patrol has been able to do that. And and human smuggling that has increased because our Border Patrol are processing migrants instead of checking the border and keeping people and drugs out. So, and to me, that's the issue I have. So,
Well, we'll definitely take those comments to Washington, but I know they've heard him before, so, but we'll continue. Anything else for Tony? Any other question? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on to item number 2, development services.
Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to declare a possible conflict with 2 and 3, and I'll step out.
Okay.
what number 3?
Numbers 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Development Services Planning and Zoning Division, request for modification of subdivision regulations for the proposed 10 East Phase 2 subdivision. Craig Colvin and Colvin Engineering, representing Speedia Holdings LLC, request 2 modifications from section 4.12C and 4.15D of the Yuma County subdivision regulations for proposed 10 East Phase 2 subdivision. Assessors parcel number 700-33-060, zone recreational vehicle, subdivision RVS, located in the vicinity of northeast corner of Avenue 10E and 34th Street, Yuma, Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza presenting the 10 East Phase 2 modification subdivision regulation request. This is a parcel, a subject parcel highlighted in crosshatch, parcel number 60. It's accessed along the south via 34th Street, just east of Avenue 10E. On the west is the 10 East Phase number 1 subdivision, and on the south, the Via Chaparral number 1. And on the east, we have the north, we have a property zone, general commercial. The applicant is requesting modification from section 4.12C, intersections and corners. It is requested by the developer not to adhere to the following requirement. Street corners shall be provided for a minimum right-of-way chamfer 25 by 25 feet in size at the intersecting station of the property lines. The applicant is requesting a 20 by 20 chamfers throughout all the intersections in the subdivision, as shown on the slide. The engineering department recommends approval of this request for internal streets only, but not along 34th Street. Minimum unobstructed site distance shall be maintained at local collector streets by means of a chamfer dedication per the requirement, which is 25 feet by 25 feet in size, which will be the following. Only in those locations. Modification number 2, from section 4.15D, residential collector street, quarter mile. It is requested by the developer not to improve Avenue 10 and quarter E in accordance with the following requirement. General right-of-way width is at 30 feet half width. The ultimate full improved section for subdivisions with a lot size smaller than 1 acre consists of 45 feet of pavement plus curves 2 feet in width on both sides. Public Works Standards 2-040 and 3-120. Takes the location where the applicant wishes not to comply with the requirement. The engineering department recommends approval of this request since the development to the east Blue Sky RV Park did not dedicate or improve the alignment. It will not make sense to construct half-width roadway. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the modification as recommended by the engineering department. Mr. Chairman, with that, staff concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for staff on the board? Do we have does the applicant want to say anything, or? I'll open it up to the public, or?
Mr. Chairman, fellow supervisors, my name is Craig Colvin. I'm Colvin Engineering, 6105 East Alyssa Lane in Yuma. Happy to answer any questions, but mainly the chamfer issue of reducing from the 25 by 25. The 10 East Phase 1 to just to the west there. You can go back to that slide there, the 10 East Phase 1. That subdivision, the entire subdivision was changed to only 20 by 20 foot chamfers. All the subdivisions to the south are all 20 by 20 foot chamfers. So on 10 East, we conform to everything that was done to the south. We're trying to do the same thing to this one, which is pretty much surrounded by by that issue, that same issue. So, any questions? Happy to answer.
Is that what the engineering department approved, the reduction to 20?
For the other subdivisions, yes.
But for this one,
For
it's
this
not.
one?
But this one, they've approved it for all the interior except for on 34th Street. They would like to see the 25 by 25 still.
It's a brave new world. They keep changing regulations. It's happened in San Luis, it happens in Somerton, happens in Yuma. It basically happens in the county. How long ago do you guys have any sense of when those other subdivisions got approved?
The 10E Phase 1 subdivision was recorded in 2018, Mr. Chairman.
Well, and that was already an approved change?
It was a 20 by 20. That's how it came, and that's how it was approved.
At the time?
There were two modifications on that one. It was only for the street lights and make the sidewalks narrower. Instead of 4 feet. And that was approved as a modification by the board.
So this 25 by 25 is a new rule?
I will let the engineering staff,
Sorry, Calvin. I'm just trying to get some answers here.
The 25 by 25 chamfer has been in place for many years.
So it gets modified? Is that how it happened in that?
I'm thinking on 10 East Phase 1, since the city of Yuma owns 10E, we didn't comment on that one, but the internal, we probably recommended 25 and the board approved the 20 by 20. On this particular one, we're okay with the internal streets being 20 by 20, but the 34th Street, we insist on having that 25 by 25.
What is the function of the chamfer?
The chamfer prevents people from building or planting trees that obstructs the line of sight when you go towards the intersection. And we feel that 34th Street it has a high volume of traffic on that
Is it going to be a major thoroughfare? Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me?
Is it going to be a major, is it a major thoroughfare right now?
34th Street, no, but it's I believe that's a local collector, but has high volume.
Okay.
And the internal ones were okay.
So the idea is to give people more space to put shrubbery trees and stuff, and on the exits or on the adjacent to larger streets, is to keep the vision clear for the turn. Schaefer, that is the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So the engineering department is recommending that we keep 20 by 20s inside and go to 25 by 25 on the.
That's correct. Yes.
Colvin, is that something that you consider? Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yes, that's what we've done. 10 East was City of Yuma jurisdiction. They only require a 15 by 15 foot chamfer. And so they agreed to abide by the same as the interior on that case on 10 East. Everything to the south and via Chaparral number 4 along 10 East was 20 by 20, but we're okay with what the engineering department recommends.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion to approve with the recommendations by engineering department of the 25 by 25 on 34.
Just to make sure the record reflects that the planning commission also recommended approval. So
Yeah.
we're moving with the approval as based on the recommendation of the planning and zoning commission and the staff, engineering staff. So I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve staff's recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just out of curiosity, why is Ryan Supervisor Ryan?
Doesn't matter, but I don't.
Must have a very. Is he your brother, Colvin, or something? Is he relative? Supervisor Lyons, is he a relative or?
Has he been
declared a
available?
conflict of interest, but I mean, it must be very remote. I mean, you don't, it's not like you look alike. He work for you?
I've known Jonathan for a long time. Our families actually come from eastern Arizona together. And our families have stayed apart for many years, but my daughter married his brother, so.
It's a family. Okay, I get it now, but I think that's pretty remote. But anyway, let's move on.
Moving on to item number 3, county administration, construction management, discussion and possible action to either A, increased budget in order to continue with the existing plan of repairing and renovating facilities located at 145 South 2nd Avenue, 217 South 2nd Avenue, and 150 West Court Street, or B, enter into real property lease agreement between the Tres Cuates LLC and Yuma County for property located at 241 South Main Street to provide temporary office space for the Public Defender's Office and staff in conjunction with the renovation of 145 South 2nd Avenue, and authorize the board to execute said agreement contingent upon legal counsel review. Dave?
Good morning, Chairman Porteous, members of the board. Dave Villand, Construction Projects Director here. And yes, we're talking about a required update or increase to the public defenders, the budget to renovate space as was selected by the board last year, to provide what I'm calling long-term temporary office space until an ultimate permanent location is identified. This first slide here shows us the same slide that I presented to the board back in February of fall of 2021, when we were looking at potentially purchasing the land here inside the red box. This had come up as a result of a request to be keeping an eye out for property in the vicinity of the courthouse, since the courthouse and the historic courthouse were nearing max capacity, and planning for future expansion. Should an opportunity present itself, we thought it might be wise to pick up land adjacent to the courthouse when an opportunity presented itself. So this was purchased just for that purpose, not necessarily for the buildings on the land, but to use the land underneath it for that future expansion. This also shows you, well, hold on. After we completed the purchase, just as essentially a side note, we the former owner of the property and the tenants, the two buildings there at 217 South 2nd Avenue and 150 West Court Street, were occupied by 5 different firms. And so the buildings had been split and were rented that way. And that continued after the county became owner of the property. We leased that property back to those same tenants since we simply wanted to hold on to the property until we had a further plan for the site. And then fast forward into the spring of last year, and now it's pretty much determined that the courts will be adding Division 7, and we need to accommodate for that new presence in the building and find space to make this all work. So the courts took it upon themselves, came up with a good plan, I think, to add Division 7 in the north end of the 3rd floor where Justice Court for Precinct 1 is currently located. That in turn moves JP1 into the historic courthouse, again on the 3rd floor where we have a former courtroom that has been converted into other use, and we will restore back to that small courtroom for JP1 to use. And then underneath that, on the 2nd floor here is currently occupied by the public defender. So the thinking here was that we would find an alternate location for the public defender for their offices, and then JP1 staff would be located at that location. So in May of last year, we presented the options that we had available, which were not many. None of the options allowed us to keep the department together under one roof. We recognized that we were going to have to split them between multiple locations. And we talked about the former risk management building here at 145 South 2nd. One or the other of these buildings here at 217 and 150 West Court Street, as well as a potential lease option here and here. And ultimately from that discussion, the board directed us to move forward with using the risk management building here and the west building of the former Camarena property here at 217 South 2nd Avenue. Hand in hand with that, for all those options, I've been asked to put together a budgetary estimate, rough order of magnitude estimate, for what it might take to perform tenant improvement work to that space to accommodate the public defenders. So having just come out of having just recently completed 2 of those types of projects, one here at 2550 South 4th Avenue for the Treasurer and Assessor, and one at the former Hopstetter building for recording elections, we thought we had some pretty good data to determine roughly what that might take. And those two projects came out at about $40 per square foot. But looking at these and realizing that there may be a little bit more work to do than that, we thought it safe to add an escalation factor, and we upped that amount to $50 per square foot. Also, looking at the staff that the public defender had, it was an estimate that we needed 7,000 square feet of space, and that's why we thought we could make that fit between the two buildings, between the risk management building and the west building at 217, which is this one here. This is a view from the outside of this building at 217 South 2nd, front and back. And again, you can see it's occupied, being used as a law office at this time. After being directed to move forward with making renovations of the space, we brought on board an architect to help us with the process, and Mr. Chris Thompson's here in the audience should you have any questions for him about the cost estimate. He assisted me with that. So we started meeting with the public defender staff to get a better idea of what their space needs might be and see how this would work in these two buildings. And after multiple meetings with staff, we came to realize these 3 points here. Number one, that the 7,000 square feet was going to be inadequate. We were going to need more to meet both their needs for now and moving forward. And as well as the fact that some of the space at 145 South 2nd, the former risk management building, really was not in any condition to be redeveloped as office space and was in fact being used as storage space and necessary storage space. There wasn't another alternate location to relocate those storage items. And then on top of that, we were told that we need to provide space in these buildings for our conflict administration group, which is not a large group, but it required some additional square footage. So those three combinations together made us realize that we did need, in fact, need to add the third building, the east building at the former Camerata property, 150 West Court Street. Now from here, this is where things maybe start going down a little bit different path. So just to back up again, when we purchased these buildings, again, it was with the idea of this property. It was with the idea that we were interested in the land more than the buildings. And as such, it was never really entered into the program for maintenance work. The idea was that we would see it through the end of the lease for the occupants that were there, and then ultimately demolish the building and prepare it for the site for future use. So now as we're looking at this a little more closely, we're realizing a couple different things. Number one is that there's some things that we can see. I'm calling this additions to the base tenant improvement scope because they're items that we can see fairly easily from outside of the building, and we know we're going to have to adjust the budget anyway for this additional square footage, this additional building. This, by the way, is that building at 150 West Court Street behind the main building.
The roof looks bad enough.
Yeah, and again, we could see some of this, but we also felt like we could control this. This is the underside of this front porch. This is just an example. There's a number of these issues. You can see some rot and some broken boards and missing boards and whatnot. And, you know, if we had the budget, we could decide, do we tear the whole thing off? Do we put back a smaller porch? Do we try to fix what's there, et cetera? Likewise, with curb out front, you know, this becomes a safety issue. To what extent do we replace, repair, whatever? Do we pull it all out and patch back in with asphalt or what? A number of things on the outside you can just kind of get an idea of. This is just an air vent that's been painted over and it's probably largely non-functional. So this is, again, probably something we could control the cost of. However, the larger issue is this, and this is what we call more major maintenance repairs. And again, going back to, you know, having used the example, looking at the 4th Avenue building for the treasurer and assessor and the Hopstetter building for recording elections, those are essentially commercial buildings was ready to be leased out, right? And especially on 4th Avenue, that's the only purpose that building's ever served. So the owners are, you know, take care of any major maintenance issues with that. Bottom line is these sorts of things were not factored into the original budget estimate for attempting to renovate this, and were really unknowns to us at the time of the purchase of the building. But now that we've been directed to move forward with renovating it, we start looking up on the roof and behind those dark corners and places that we couldn't see right off the bat. And this is an example of a couple of things that we're seeing. You know, we were working with various contractors and vendors and whatnot to get their opinions and estimates. We hired a roofing contractor to take a look at this. And you can see some pretty extensive delamination of the roof on the west side. And it's exposing the decking underneath and presumably all the the deck is essentially rotten and need a replacement. You get an idea, a little bit of a parapet wall up here, as well as the upper roof condition. So the recommendation from the contractor was a complete tear off and replace.
Yeah.
Likewise, the other big issue I think is the mechanical systems. Again, we're making assumptions. There's people renting the space. They must have air conditioning in their space. Well, we come to find out that it's been badly neglected. A number of these units are not functioning at all. And in some cases have been replaced with like a mini split that's serving a part of an office but not covering the whole space. And this kind of goes with the previous slide. This is an example of some ceiling damage from one of those roof leaks that we saw. And I just mentioned that really because you can see below it on the floor below that there's damage as well, and you don't really know, so you start turning into it just how extensive that damage goes. Anyway, so at the end of the day, looking at this, if this is still a viable project, this is what we believe it's going to take to move forward in this direction. We've increased the cost per square foot for these two buildings to offset, again, what I was putting into that basket of tenant improvement work, including some of the exterior work. And then these, the larger maintenance repair, the roof, the mechanical systems. We did perform a hazardous material investigation, discovered we have 2 locations with that came back positive for asbestos-containing materials. And one was on that back roof, so we'd have to abate that properly. These buildings, of course, are not on the IT or county network, and that's fine. That was understood ahead of time. But the infrastructure inside the building is in far worse condition than we anticipated, and pretty much needs to be completely removed and replaced. Security systems, again, there's a functioning security systems, but not adequate and not part of the county network. And another fairly important one is the addition of a fire sprinkler system is predicated on the extent to which renovations take place, whether it's a certain value or a certain percentage of the building. So those could trigger the need to add a fire sprinkler system to these buildings. And all that increase, of course, impacts our soft costs as well. So contractor fees, permits, and tax, and all that will go up accordingly. Well, with that in mind, we do have a contingency factored in here as a 10% of the remodel costs, but that brings us more in the neighborhood of $836,000. And again, I did ask Mr. Thompson here to provide an architect's estimate of probable cost as well, and his number was very similar to mine. So a little bit of confirmation that's more likely what it's going to take to renovate these two. As a possible alternative, should you wish to consider it, while we're performing those investigations, we were made aware of another property available. This is located at 241 South Main Street, just a half block this way. You can see its proximity here. It's located here. Here's, of course, the red roof where we are located now. And here's those 2 buildings at 145 and 217 South 2nd Avenue. This building was most recently used as a law office. And as such, it's fairly well prepared to continue as so. We've looked at it, we've walked through it, it's in good condition, and is essentially move-in ready. This is a bit of a layout of the floor plan. Main Street on this side, come into a secure lobby here, office and reception desk here. A large conference room accessible both from the public lobby as well as from the staff side. And then about 7 offices back along this corridor, room for an additional workstation in here. A stairway up to a loft, that's what this is up above, which is 2 additional work areas built in already. Beyond that, there's a kitchen area in back as well as multiple occupant restrooms towards the back, and a rear entrance here back out to Maiden Lane.
And what's that back area right over here on the right?
This here?
Yes.
This is a subletted area. It's currently a photographer, has her studio space rented in that area. And, should that become available further down the road, we could certainly discuss whether that would be beneficial to add or not. But my thinking is this, again, if this sounds interesting at all, I anticipate needing the building, essentially, of course, over the span of time that the administration building is being constructed over here, a little bit beyond. We're looking at a $1 per square foot lease rate, which is very good for downtown Main Street location. Excuse me. And at roughly 44,750 square feet, that works out to $50,000 a year in rent. Plus, this is based on last year's tax and insurance portion, so that could increase slightly over time. The only things that we really see that need to be done are getting our IT folks, get us connected to the county network. Our IT staff have been to the site a couple of times already, and they have identified a means to do so. Some equipment would need to be purchased to complete that process. And there is a security system on the building, but we may want to add, whether it's access control to the back door or something like that. So I've just line item or anything like that. There may be a couple small things as well. For example, you saw the front, there's no signage or anything, so we need to add some signage there and things like that. But generally speaking, we're looking at total for year one of $80,194. And at the end of year three, and I'm saying year three, well, let me come back to that, of a total of $201,082. To get us through the end of this current fiscal year, we'd be needing just under $25,000. And I'm anticipating a March 1st earliest start date.
Would it house the entire department?
It would take 12. Yeah, if you look at the floor plan here, we could fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 2 up here. So that's 12. That's roughly half. So instead of being split between 3 buildings, we'd be split between 2. And again, we would continue with the plan to renovate the risk management building. This, again, a little bit different situation. This is a long-standing county building. We do have a better grip on those major maintenance issues there. There's very little that has to be done right out of the gate. So that's more of a pure tenant improvement project. And even though they're split this way, they would be able to maintain a presence in close proximity to the courthouse should they have an urgent call from one of the courtrooms. And I meant to point out too that Mr. Rayhan is here as well, if you have any questions.
So let's take it, so that 142, you are currently renovating it right now?
145.
145, yeah, 145.
We're developing the plans to finalize.
Developing the plans.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the budget that we approved, the 350,000 vote, is that being used already?
If depending on the direction here, yes, we would need to put most of that into this building. So the thinking there, if you were to choose to add this lease property here, we would maintain that budget for this building, which would also take care of the miscellaneous items needed, like the IT connections and whatnot.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Okay, let me ask a couple of questions to get a sense of where the timing is this thing. So when are the leases for the current tenants over?
They are out. They are out. We did when the board. Well, when you chose to move forward with these buildings, we issued that notice. However, we worked with them because they didn't have new space to move into.
Does that include the photographer?
No, that's on the lease one. That's on the lease.
No, yeah, this space is not included with the lease. That's completely separate.
Yeah, the only 2 buildings that
The only
count.
2 buildings that count.
Right.
Okay, so are we talking about, how soon is the judge, how soon is he intend to move in to take over?
Division 7.
The Division 7.
Well, Division 7 is up and running. They're sharing some courtroom space right now, but they're anxious, of course. So that's a separate project and a separate design firm. And we are, I would say, about 50% through schematic design phase at that point in time, which I haven't got the schedule back yet, but I anticipate any time now, where they would get to that point where the courts would have a package to review, and then we initiate the rest of the contract for the construction documents for that building. The nice thing about this option here too, of course, as I mentioned, this space is move-in ready, so we could get up to half of the public defender staff out of the historic courthouse and into that location immediately, which frees it up, makes it a little bit easier for those renovations that are needed there.
On that 217, so the budget you're asking here is that for that 217?
Yes, this would be purely for these 2 buildings, which are at that same location, front and back.
Personally, I wouldn't lease without having the option. That's what we bought that land for. I mean, so even if we decided to lease, we should immediately start in the, making the plans for that building, whether it's a modular, whether it's a building, but I mean, we need to use the land that we bought. And if those buildings aren't, it's going to take $1 million by the time you finish, it's gonna take $1 million to rehab them. We may look at another option relatively quick, but building a new building would probably be $1 million worth of expense. So have you guys done any pricing at all on building a new structure?
On this site? Oh, I lost it.
The site that we bought.
217.
Here?
217, yeah.
No, that would be a future budget request. What I would propose doing is that we would hire an outside planning firm to come in and look at this whole area and identify where the major need is.
Let me just, I mean, I hate to spend $800,000 and then come in next couple of years and knock it down and spend $1.5 million. I just, you know, and just, you know, for the board to know, I requested to Ian that we have like a work session and assess all the buildings that the county owns. And I mean, every building that it's being leased or we're going to be there temporary, because I don't want to continue putting in money to an old building and then
we're going to
knock down in a couple of years.
We'll have another 197.
Yeah, it just that to me is just not very smart, you know, spending money.
So I guess this is again an addition to the concept. I mean, I don't mind leasing for a while, but leasing without a plan to get out of leasing, it's not worth it to me. We're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars remodeling somebody else's building to fit our needs.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention, if you were to choose to lease this building, again, I mentioned this as a total cost for 3 years, needing it primarily for the first 2, but at the end of that time, again, if the board feels like this is a good direction, and maybe this comes from the discussion you're talking about, Chairman Porteous, but we know at a minimum this building will be empty where we are now, right? We'll be moving into our new building across the way. So there's space available right away. We also have the Hofstadter building again too. So meaning that we can get out of that lease and we have a good alternative and a building that's already part of the county network to move the public center together.
Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to go with the lease on the Main Street one, just because, like I said, I think we start renovating over on 217. It's just we're going to put good money after bad, and it's going to be a nightmare. Whereas if we lease Main Street for a couple of years, we'll have 197 up and running within 2 to 3 years, and then this whole building is going to be vacant. Hofstadter's, like I said, it's going to be vacant. We're going to have more space than we know what to do with.
Oh, we always find them to do it.
Yeah, well, man, for a while. But we're going to have three.
I think we need to come up with a plan. I mean, what leasing is, in a pinch, that's okay. But, we got to come up with a plan. Leasing for a long time or leasing without a plan at the end, it's not an option that I think is a wise option. Even though we ended up spending a lot of money on that building on the other side for a while there, it solved the space problem. Yeah. As a reminder to everybody, the fact is that when we wanted to use it, it wouldn't serve the purpose that we wanted. But it served the purpose that we remodeled it for at the beginning. At the beginning, it did. It put in the assessor, the treasurer, and the recorder in a place that they may not have particularly liked, but they were all there. We had to move them out to tear it down, but and it was because again,
it was a sick.
We remodel. I hate the rehab buildings because you end up with asbestos in the roof, or you end up with something you weren't looking at. But in this particular case, I would go with the leasing option if we have a plan to put them up.
When let's say if item B would be approved, when would you move in?
It is essentially move-in ready. We have done a preliminary review of the lease agreement and just need to update it and get it approved by our legal. And then ready.
When does it need it? Need to be moved in?
When do we need to move in?
When do we need to move in?
I would be targeting a March 1st initiation of the lease agreement, and we could start moving anytime after that.
12.
That gives us this month. The building's empty right now. We have this month then to complete the IT connection and any other small things we need to do.
And that would be a 2-year lease or?
It's a 2-year, we're committed to 2 years, and then it's, it has I can't remember if it's a 90 or 120 day cancellation from either side, but we would be looking to lock in that 3rd year. that would give us time if we did, if the decision at that point in time was to use space in this building, and if we decided we need to do a light upgrade, paint a coat on the walls or whatever, we could get that done before moving them out into here. So have that space release.
Okay. I don't think there's that many options.
Oh, we're not remodeling the Camarina building when we're gonna tear it down. That's pointless to me, so if that's our only other option, then is to do 145 Second and 241 Main, then that's what we need to do.
Well, and just so that we all know, I think, I asked Ian to do like a work session. I don't know if he told you, but I want the whole board and have a work session that we can talk about and plan for these things, that what's coming up, and that way we can start setting money aside within our budget. So we don't have to be spending money like that. So
well, let me make it clear.
And I'm hoping it's like in April, the end of April or May.
I'm not into increasing the budget in order to continue with repairing a renovated facility located at 145th. I'm not in with that. So the only option that really seems that we can take today is to actually, if we want to move forward quickly, is to actually take the lease agreement and start this planning process to actually tear down that place and build up another one that will fit everybody there. I mean, if within the confines of the space that we have, because that's not really a lot of space. I mean, if I know the regulations well, you have to provide one parking space for so many square feet of office use, and that location there doesn't seem to me to have that much space that you can divide between parking.
Yeah, and going back to your comment about long-term plan, I wholeheartedly support that. We did provide a report about a year ago now, and we looked at a possible, conceptual plan for that site, which included a multi-level parking structure just for that very reason.
Oh, yeah.
Just as one example of it we could go, but our next step would be to bring in some outside help to kind of guide those conversations and come up with a solid plan.
All right.
Let's move it.
I think, does anybody want a second Tony's
I'll
motion?
make the motion to go ahead.
Oh.
No, if he's gonna make the motion that we approve 241 Main.
Yeah.
If we could find a location for, can you go to the spot to the one we're gonna lease? That we're looking at leasing, 241? If it were possible to find a location for the photographer in the back, would that be enough space to put the rest of legal defenders?
No.
Okay.
No, they're gonna have to go over a
You're
second.
talking almost equally split, 12 and 12 between the two sites, and we're only maybe fit 2 or 3 of them.
Thing, we need to find someone.
I was just hoping that maybe we could get them all in one location. We wouldn't have to.
I think the good news with the 145 South Second Avenue building is that the extent of those larger maintenance items is greatly reduced. The roof's in decent condition. The mechanical systems are operable.
It's the little house, right, next to the Masons.
Yeah. It kind of looks like a little house.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I already made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion?
I'll
Number
second
two.
Tony's
There's a-
motion for 241 South Main.
To lease.
Lease it.
So there's a motion and a second to.
Oh, wait, let me just clear that out. I don't want a renovation of 145. See, I know, but it says, and staff in conjunction with the renovation of 145 Second. I mean, and authorize the board. I'm fine with starting the planning for the actual new facility there, not the rehab or renovation.
Right. So yeah, just to be clear, this is the 217 site that we would not be doing anything with then. This is the 145 site that we would move forward with the tenant improvement work with the current budget. And again, I don't know if that needs to be part of the motion or not, but just so we're understanding that the expenses that go with 241 would be new budget requests.
All right.
All right.
Actually, I was referring to.
So there's motion and a second to accept the recommendation B. Is that right?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 4, Human Resources recommend to the Yuma County Board of Supervisors to A, award the bid for the Prescription Benefit Management Program to Express Scripts for the Yuma County Employee Benefit Trust effective July 1, 2023 with 4 renewable terms per 5-year pricing, and B, authorize the Director of Human Resources to sign all necessary documents related to the PBM.
Are you on that one too?
Board, Felicia Frausto, Human Resources Director. I'm here presenting to you, it is that time that we go out for a request for proposal services, which we did with our Prescription Benefit Manager program. What you have in your packet is a list of the RFP, who we looked at with regards to the services that would be similar in nature to what were provided today. On January 26th, the Yuma County Employee Benefit Trustees and staff met to discuss the various different vendors. Of our vendors, we did have a committee of 5 members that represented someone from payroll. We had individuals from our Employee Benefit Trustee and other members to assist us with the selection as to what we're presenting to you today. Of the 10 RFPs that we received were from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Benecard, CVS, Elixir, Employee RX, ESI, which is currently our incumbent known as Express Scripts, MRX, Meta Impact, Optum RX HTC, Welladine. So Siegel was our representative who led the whole committee and helped us to identify through what are the best practices of what we needed to look at for the services that we have been able to receive from our current incumbent being ESI. The RFP looked at various areas of our services, looked at if we were to select another vendor, would there be disruption? How would that impact our employees? As well as, you can receive a service here locally, but if you need to receive services out of state, out of country, what would that look like as well? So what we did is we asked for, looked through the various different vendors, did comparison. As you'll see on page 6 of your packet, you'll see information there that represents for you what the cost analysis would be for 1-year totals. So what we looked at is for our best and final offers. We selected 3. Of those 3 best and final offers, they were Elixir, ESI, our current incumbent being Express Scripts, and Optum RX HTC. Express Scripts had an estimated cost of the plan. For us, for a total before rebates, the plan would cost us $3.1 million. Total projected with rebates for the plan for the first year is $938,505, which will then result in our overall plan rebate of $2.1 million that we would be able to receive, which would then, of that $938,000, it would then result in our overall cost after cost of the plan is $2.1. If you then look at Elixir had for us that their total 1 year in totals with regards to the cost of the plan prior is the total rebates is 2.9. Total projected with the plan is $465,000, and after that, it's applied as 2.1, $172,000, $135,000 total. When you look at Optum RX HTC, has an estimated cost of the plan for year 1 total rebates is 2.9. Total projected rebates is $888,155, which will result in overall rebates applied afterwards is $2 million, roughly. Now, with that information there, we then said, okay, of those top 3, there were certain things that we would like for you to go back and look at. So we asked them for their best and final offer, which if you look at page 3, it talks about how we asked them to look at how could they improve their initial offer. So ESI improved their initial offer by increasing the financial improvement projections by over $637,000. In addition, ESI agreed to implement the new pricing 4 months earlier, if approved today, to benefit our plan to be effective March 1st, 2023. which would result in additional improvement of Yuma County receiving $199,000 for the county. Optimum RX, they did not make any other additional price changes. However, their financial clarifications made by our Optimum RX in their best and final offers led to modification of our initial projections. So that resulted in higher projected improvements that we were able to compare with ESI. Elixir made one minor improvement to proposed drug discounts over their initial offer, but that initial offer did not include making any changes for us drastically that would cause a reduce in the amount of rebates that we will receive. So on the 26th of January, the Yuma County Board of Trustees with staff made a recommendation, as we're presenting to you here today, to approve the award to the Prescription Benefit Management Program to be ESI. With that, which is Express Scripts. With that, I will entertain any questions.
Any questions for Felicia?
No, it was pretty well explained to us. It's just a matter of asking for the best price and getting them to react, which is something weird when you talk about, getting, going out for bids and then asking them, hey, can you improve your bid? But it's something that you can do, I guess, legally. So legally, they came in as, the lowest percentage of change. Not by much, mind you.
All right, well, I'll entertain a
As a
motion.
member of the benefit team, I'll make.
Yeah,
I'll
you
make the
should make,
motion.
yeah.
Go ahead
I'll second it.
and award the bids to Express Scripts, ESI, effective July 1st, 2023, with 4 renewal terms, per 5-year pricing, and authorize the Director of Human Resources to sign all necessary documents related to PBM.
All right, there's a motion and a second to accept the recommended motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the planning and zoning agenda. Full legal descriptions of property sites for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. Expedited rezoning and public hearing. This item will be open as a group for public hearing and acted upon by one motion to adopt the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, except for any item that is removed by a board member for separate consideration. The item will be discussed and acted upon separately following action on an expedited items. And we have item 1. Development Services Planning and Zoning Division Public Hearing Special Use Permit Case Number 22-07. Jack Tice requests a special use permit for Section 607.03 E of the Yuma County Zoning Ordinance to allow an accessory dwelling unit on a parcel 14,810 square feet in size, zone manufactured home subdivision, 10,000 square feet minimum, MHS-10, assessor's parcel number 728-11-126, located at 1255 6 East 44th Street, Yuma, Arizona.
Right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. Go ahead, approve the expedited item as presented. Therefore, saving the gentleman from.
You gotta open it.
I'm just trying to get this gentleman to sit when it's ready. All right, so I thought you, okay.
I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public? Seeing none, go ahead and
Yeah, the motion is
close
to
it.
approve the expedited items.
I'll second that motion.
Who made the first?
I did.
Tony.
Tony.
And the second and the third.
So there's a motion and a second to approve the item as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I want to thank the attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I got confused at the planning and zoning meeting left before
That's
they
okay.
were through. I mean, had to be chased down and brought back, so maybe I don't mess up again, just point to the door and say, get out.
Well, we normally say, you gotta quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should we get out this way?
Yes.
Point to the door and let him out.
Moving on to the rezoning and regular public hearing items, staff will make a full presentation on each of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing, and action by the Board of Supervisors. Item number 1, Development Service and Planning and Zoning Division, public hearing, minor amendment, case number 22-04. That be
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Juan Dan Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. Mr. Chairman, this case and the following case rezoning.
Let's say, can we combine the two?
2220 are together, so.
together.
Yes.
So I'll open up also item number 2, public hearing, rezoning case number 22-20.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This minor amendment case number 2204 is a request to change the land use designation for 4 parcels totaling approximately 80 acres in size from suburban density residential to urban density residential. And the property is located in the Foothills Planning Area at the northwest corner of Fortuna Road and the alignment of County 13th Street. And this is to accommodate the rezoning of the property from C2 General Commercial to the RVS zoning district. This is the parcel shown cross-hatched. In yellow is the portion that's being rezoned from, as I mentioned, from DC2 to RVS to accommodate a future subdivision. Everything's just open desert out here. It's future growth area for Yuma County, the Foothills Planning Area. Aerial imagery that shows open desert and the a solar farm to the east. We received no comments from property owners within the notification area. MCAS is stating that the property is located 1 mile from the Berry Elmco water range, and they're requesting navigation and the range disclosure statements. Walter Irrigation District, they made a comment regarding water supply. Arizona Game and Fish provided some comments to mitigate endangered species. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this minor amendment because it's consistent with the existing character of the Foothills Planning Area, and because this amendment will be an overall improvement to the plan, since this will ensure development occurs in a coordinated, contiguous, and comprehensive manner. And this amendment is in character with the existing land uses and supports policies of the plan to provide consistent land uses. I'll proceed with the rezoning case, unless there's any questions. Okay, rezoning case 2220 is again to rezone a portion of 2 parcels, 18.18 acres in size from C2 to RVS, and this is to develop a residential subdivision. Again, the crosshatch is a portion that's being rezoned. And this is a layout of the proposed subdivision. Aerial imagery. This is a view looking north at Fortuna Road, looking west at the separate property. And the same comments that we received from for the minor amendment we received for the rezoning. Staff is the commission is recommending approval with the following performance conditions: that within 60 days of board approval, the owner agent provide an ARS 121134 waiver, the range and restricted airspace disclosure statement be recorded, a navigation disclosure statement, and that they record a schedule for development disclosure statement. And the following schedule for development, that the owner applicant shall record a final plat subdividing the property into parcels of at least 6,000 square feet in size within 5 years of board approval of this rezoning case. And that concludes staff's presentation. Ready to entertain any questions.
Any questions for staff? I'll open up to the public. And come on.
My name is Paula Gage. I live at 11484 South Ironwood Drive. In all due respect, regarding the proposal of any subdivisions out in the Yuma Foothills area, there have been many more than one comment against this. I know at the rezoning commission, I personally brought in 60 comments against this proposal. Some of the items, I've been coming to Yuma for 40 years. I've been a homeowner for 18 years, full-time resident for 13 years. I'm all for improving the infrastructure and the community in the area. But before I beg any approval of these, that due diligence is performed, that some studies be done, impact studies on any type of increasing the population and the density out in the foothills. I know that some of the proposed zoning is done in floodplain. I know that some people in La Baracas were at the zoning commission and mentioned how even with the culverts that they have, that the water's backed up, that the road was washed out twice within, I believe, a month, and that it affected EMS. Some of the areas that they want to do rezoning is basically on a dead-end road. It's 2 lanes. I am really concerned about traffic studies being done prior to anything. Once rezoning is approved, you can't undo rezoning, is my belief. I don't know that it's ever been done. I guess one of my questions about the purpose of applying for rezoning is if the LLC is looking to basically increase the value of the property that they currently have, that after rezoning that they can sell it for a higher profit. I don't know that any plan has been made. I know that one section that was talked about was increasing to 14 units per acre on a 400-acre patch. So I would like to know ahead of time what the impact is as far as the population. It was mentioned that regarding commercial, that there is a need for commercial out there on Fortuna, on the Foothills Boulevard and Fortuna. There are many spaces that are open that can house any type of commercial. We are having, I believe, a mini mart and a gas station that's going on the corner of Foothills and Frontage Road. I would like a crime study done as to what might happen out there with high density population. I know that there has been a plea for increased housing for people from the college and from the Marine base, but I think that there are many other places that have multi-lane roads that could be used. I know that one of the properties that is talked about for apartments is on a non-maintained primitive road. The Ironwood, I believe, was approved for bicycle traffic as a designated scenic drive for bicycles. It's 25 miles an hour. That road cannot be re-widened. I know that people drive dangerously fast on that. I'm concerned about public safety, by crime, by traffic accidents, by increase in the density, about infrastructure. There's no talk about maybe putting an exit 15 off of the highway to avoid traffic on that road. So I thought the meeting was tomorrow. I was going to have this all out in good.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to cut you off, but you're talking about a different area.
Isn't one of these on the foothills, the first one?
Fortuna. The one you're talking about is going to be next month on March 6th.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the one that's in the wash. This is out on the
15E and along 40th Street.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. You're talking about the one that's in the floodplain. This is out on the mesa, out in the middle of the desert.
This is south of there.
I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody kept saying
That's good. But anyway, you have sort of an idea of what's coming.
Time to prepare.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking at this going, what? This is.
That's okay. I mean, you got a little more time.
My name is Wesley Bruce, and I currently oppose this plan and this position to take public trust land and rezone this and add more housing and more development out here because, well, it just seems like open desert, and everybody says, oh, we know we can take away open desert, just UTV riders and people out there. There's really no road infrastructure to get people to and from out there. You're funneling these people all the way down to Fortuna, and if you haven't driven down the Fortuna Bridge or tried to get around the Fries right now, it's a nightmare. And so we just really can't handle increasing the population out there right now until more roads are opened up around that area or connecting people over to the 195 or some way for people to get out. I think we're at least 5 or 6 years away from even considering a proposal like this or a development like this. I think too with developers backing out of other projects and interest rates rising right now. This is just poor timing to make a decision on this land out here. I think this land should stay open and stay public trust land, and maybe revisit this years down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I have a concern about the fact that the schools out there are sitting at 48 and 50 in a classroom. The junior highs and the elementary schools, Dorothy Hall is sitting at 40 and 45 in a classroom, and the junior highs are sitting at 48 in a classroom. And there is no proposal for anybody to donate any land to the school districts for them to be able to build any schools to go along with the subdivision that is going to put how many new houses out here? So to me, that's, of course, having been an educator, that's my concern, and having nieces and great nieces and nephews and nieces and nephews out there, and folks that I know that are out there teaching. It's impossible to teach in a classroom of 48. I don't care if they're 5-year-olds or if they're 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds. So, I mean, to me, the people who are proposing these subdivisions are going to need to designate some land.
It's a rezoning. This is.
I know you're rezoning land, and they're not putting any. They're not setting aside any of that rezoning of the land for schools in that subdivision. So, kind of like Dorothy Hall was put in there. Go ahead.
I'm back. I would like to speak to this.
Your name and.
Paula Gage, 11484 South Ironwood Drive, Yuma.
Yes,
On a Tuesday, a week ago Thursday, I was sitting on the overpass at that Foothills the Fortuna on-ramp to get onto the freeway. I sat through 3 lights. You have gridlock there now. Getting off the freeway at 5:15, the traffic was backed onto the freeway, which is a huge danger. That exit is also used for truck traffic because of the truck stop there, and it's a main line to 95 going north. If anything is done to increase the population out there, that overpass and those streets have got to be addressed to handle any more, because right now, basically, it's gridlocked without any increase in population.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question, because I think that the process is a little bit, we're going too far forward. This is a minor amendment to be able to approve a rezoning. The minor amendment, all this talk about plans can't be asked. Well, normally we don't ask the plans to be defined that way. We ask that people who rezone or people who ask for a minor rezone is because they have a tentative plan. They think they're going to be able to do this. But before they do it, they have to conduct traffic studies. They have to bring in the plans. They have to bring in the access points, where they're going to widen, which avenues they're going to. They have to do a lot more work. As a nonprofit developer, and I've been developing for 40 years, normally the rezoning process is the first step in a long, lengthy process of coming over to ask for things to be done. Now, I understand that when we rezone something, we're sort of saying, okay, well, we'll allow them to come back to us with a plan. But it doesn't guarantee them that they're going to get their subdivision approved. It doesn't guarantee anything. As a matter of fact, that probably requires the traffic studies to be done. It requires the engineering department, our engineering department, get involved. It requires them determining which ones are collector streets. Growth should come with ways to deal with these issues, as far as I'm concerned. But that process cannot begin unless you have the right zoning in the thing. So I'm saying, one, you either want to sell it for more, for future development, or you want to start a subdivision process. When you start a subdivision process is when we get to ask them for all these studies and determination of what's going to go in there. Because until something is come up as a tentative plan, we have no way of knowing what's going to happen to that land. It could be sold to an entity out of New York who wants to keep it like that for 10 years. It could be sold to someone in California that wants to do it next week. Or it could be a part of the process. Colvin, he may, have the owners, and the owners may desire to go ahead. But this in no way guarantees anything to anyone other than the fact that they can go ahead and start planning for it. Go ahead and start planning for it is where, I think that people try to And I can understand that. People are concerned that if you give someone the right zoning, they'll do whatever we approve that what the zoning requires. Yes, the zoning requires that you have, I mean, the regulations require that you have the right zoning, but it only to begin planning for it. I don't know if the horse left the barn right the moment you rezone, but I know that there's a long and lengthy process that comes forward where we have to take into account all these factors about density and so forth. I'm not sure that the minor agreement and the rezoning opens the door to the moment that we can't close it. I think that we can. I think that we can ask them to provide for the schools. We can ask them for widen roads. We can ask them for access roads. We can ask them for anything that makes that development fit the environment they're going to put it into. But right now, I'm not sure. I'm sure that if we don't begin right now with something, there won't be anything happening there. That I'm sure. But I'm not sure that that's what we're entrusted to do.
Go ahead, Mr. Rubio.
Chairman, also a reminder to the board that, as you can see, the majority of this parcel is already rezoned to RVS. This was rezoned back in the 90s. The only portion that they're trying to rezone is the 8 acres to the east, which is currently zone C2, to make it a part of the future subdivision.
But what happens is when they look at the minor amendment, which would be a major amendment if they were trying to develop that much land, but the minor amendment that they're asking for is just 8.18 acres, but it will turn a commercial zone into an RV park. So,
Mr. Chairman, not an RV park, a recreational vehicle subdivision.
Vehicle subdivision, excuse me. Wow, okay, I shouldn't call it an RV park, but there is going to be some growth in that area.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, to answer that gentleman's question, that area, like I said, it's already zoned RVS and it's private property. It's not state trust land.
Yeah.
It's already been bought up and, like I said, rezoned. And, if we approve this, I agree. We need to look at 40th Street, having that completed and maybe widened all the way through to 8.5. I'd love to see County 14th brought across and joined up with Fortuna.
Yes.
Because that would be an excellent exit entry point to alleviate some of the pressure off the I-8 Fortuna interchange, because it's a mess and it's not getting any better. So, but this, if we approve this, this is kind of how we start working towards that, where we can require them to make these type of changes, like Supervisor Reyes was saying, to open up these avenues of egress and such.
If you expect us as a county to start, widening roads and doing that kind of stuff, it takes forever. I can tell you right now, it would take years before the private sector actually can do this much faster than we can. And we can require them to do a lot of improvements if they want to do development on that property, especially this kind of project. So I see it as sort of like the opposite. I think that once the horse has left the barn in its own RVS, it's just difficult for us not to see an opportunity like this to try to get some development done in the way that we like to see it. If commercial, it goes the opposite way. Once you have a commercial zoning in there, you can do almost anything commercial in that property without having any changes happen. The way they're doing it right now, they want to change C2 to RVS. Well, or vacation, so it allows us to start getting involved in the process and asking them for things. We can't ask them for things if we don't let them develop it.
Because it's already zoned.
Because it's already zoned, right. All they have to do is bring a plan.
All right, I'll go ahead and close the call to the public and move it on, take it on to the board, bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion that we approve case number 22-04 and 22-20 as submitted. And like I said, this is just the beginning. We'll have a lot more control, and everything you said, believe me, we're listening to it, because there needs to be a lot more ways of getting in and out of the foothills than what we've got now, as far as with south frontage and the interstate or north frontage. It's just a madhouse. But this is the way we can start planning down the road to alleviate that problem.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the request as recommended by the Planning Commission. Minor amendment case number 22-04 and rezoning case number 22-20. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, special use permit case number 22-09. Mr. Juan Rubio.
Chairman, members of the board, Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. I have the wrong number on the, no, that's the correct presentation.
22-09.
Yeah, it's just labeled incorrectly. This is a special use permit per section 601.03T of the Yuma County zoning ordinance to allow a solar power generating facility and ancillary equipment on 6 parcels totaling 2,608 gross acres for a zoned rural area of 10-acre minimum. This property is located in the Yuma Mesa planning area at the southwest corner of County 19th Street in the alignment of Avenue 2E. This is also located in the 65, 70, and 75 decibel noise zones. Aerial imagery of the cyber property shown here within the bolded blue line. As you can see, there's a lot of open desert out here. There's the South Yuma County landfill to the west, the CEMEX plant to the east, the Berry M. Golar Range to the east, and also an aggregate mining facility within the property that is not part of the of this project, parcel 212-00001. This is the vicinity map prepared by staff that shows again the subject property crosshatch. You'll see the properties that are being are part of this special use permit. Zoning to the north is RA10. To the west, we also have RA10, and then RA10 to the south. We have a heavy industrial zoning to the west, which is the location of the landfill. This is a view looking south of the property, just open desert. At this portion, a view looking north from the subject property. View looking east from Avenue 1E. Staff received no comments within 300 feet. We did receive a comment from MCAS, and just saying that this property is fully within the noise zones of the Berry, and also requested a military compatibility assessment. And Yuma County Airport Authority, they're in support of MCAS's recommendations. Arizona Game and Fish, again, provided comments, extensive comments regarding mitigation efforts for any habitat on the property. Staff is recommending approval of this special use permit of the following performance conditions: that the applicant or agent provide an ARS 12114 waiver within 60 days of board approval. And the following operational conditions. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read or just summarize? These are standard comments that we provide for most solar projects. Okay, with operational condition number 1, that they provide copies of all permits from federal, state, or local regulatory authority. They provide a site-specific emergency response plan and employ chief safety professional. They provide us with the contact of the emergency response team. That the approval of the special use permit is based on the site plan provided by the applicant. Any change from the site plan will require approval by the board, by the plan director. The applicant must install and maintain a security fence 6 feet in height along the perimeter of the property. And they also have to provide and install and maintain a sign warning of the high voltage associated with the solar farm. And that sign will also contain the emergency contact information. They have to provide construction dust palliative for dust control. And they also need to provide a decommissioning bond. And this is standard verbiage we use on most solar projects. Number 8, that prior to construction, they provide a traffic impact study completed per Yuma County Public Works Standards Section 7.3. And Yuma County will manage and solicit bids, and that they have to construct all improvements recommended by the traffic impact study. The applicant needs to provide a military compatibility assessment from MCAS Yuma, and that concludes staff's presentation. I believe the applicant is here, and they're they're in support of all the conditions proposed by staff and by the commission.
Any questions for staff?
Just a comment. If I understand this correctly, this is sort of like, this is like 2,600 acres. It includes a solar farm. It's a mix of private and state trust land. It includes a solar farm that will feed a nitrogen plant.
You're correct, Mr.
So everything is sort of self-contained. It will take out, well, I shouldn't mention that. I shouldn't say take out, but it will remove from usage some farmland that really consumes a lot of water. There will be some water usage, but it will not be comparable to what they're basically giving up. So the Planning and Zoning Commission just issued a bunch of restrictions and so forth, which you just mentioned. Well, not issued, but recommended a lot. And those are the ones you just talked about, right? The fence, the dust control, those type of things. Is that basically summary of what it is?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, you're right on point. I believe the applicant has a short presentation for you.
Don't you make it short. Because you're a tall guy. Check your phone. I think you had it on.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Brandon Popey with Bright Night Power. Great to be in front of you guys again. We do.
Sorry.
No worries. We do have just a short presentation here that I can run through you all with you all real quick. I do want to be respectful of your time, so I will be brief. That way, I have plenty of time. Gotcha. So the first slide here, we've just got a brief overview of Bright Night, the company itself. We are what's called an independent power producer. That just means we look to develop, construct, own, and operate these facilities long term. We look to be community partners, for the duration of the project life, which is often, decades, 20, 30 years and beyond. We have a fairly sizable domestic portfolio here, exceeding 20 gigawatts. We also have a small but growing international portfolio as well, currently sitting around 2 gigawatts. Running through the next slide here, we just have a few stats on green hydrogen and Plug Power specifically, who is our green hydrogen partner for this project. They are, if not the leader, one of the leaders in the green hydrogen utility scale green hydrogen space today. So they're a sophisticated player in the arena. They know what they're doing. So just details there about their operations. Moving on just real quickly on the next slide, a few more details about the project site itself. The facility will be sized to generate up to 300 megawatts AC of solar generation using PV panels or photovoltaics. Obviously located here south of East County 19th Street. And we can keep scrolling a little bit. I know I'm being fast, so feel free to jump in if you've got any questions. This is just a rendering of another one of Plug's facilities. This one's actually planned out in Georgia, but it gives you a little bit of a flavor for what the green hydrogen portion of this project will look like. A few of the stats there as well about the size of these facilities and the amount of hydrogen that they produce in any given day. Moving on to the next slide, we've called out a few of the key benefits for this project. The solar and the green hydrogen together really offer a unique opportunity here for Yuma County. On the construction side, you've got more than 250 construction jobs that will be generated, as well as over 60 permanent jobs that will be generated between the two facilities. We'll also be providing more than $50 million to the K-12 Educational Trust, and then $60 million generated in local, state, and property tax revenue. Like Mr. Reyes mentioned there, we will have a 98% water reduction on the same footprint for the site. Currently, there's 5 irrigated pivots on the property. They're utilizing around 10 million gallons per day. Based off of our water usage projections for both ourselves on the solar side as well as our green hydrogen partner, that'll reduce down to approximately 200,000 gallons a day with the overall net savings about 98% for the same footprint. And then kind of the big headline number there, the $1.2 billion estimated in general, a regional economic uplift for the area based upon these two projects coming to Yuma County. We've got a couple of additional slides here just about our commitment to safety as well as Plug's. Obviously, that's paramount. We look to make and have those meetings with local first responders early so we can engage in that conversation early on and make sure we're taking the appropriate steps so that everyone's informed about these facilities and making the appropriate plans to accommodate them in the community.
One question in the middle of this. Yep. We're not looking at ammonia or any of those chemicals that once released in the air, they become toxic, right? We're looking at hydrogen, which is water.
Yep,
basically.
exactly.
So if something happens, what gets released is basically water.
What actually would be released is oxygen. So yeah, you might breathe a little better. But that's about it. Yep.
Okay.
All right, I think we can move on to the next slides here. Yeah, we just talked about these, the commitments to safety, so we can move on. Contact information for myself as well as our regional VP, Eric Ellis, who's here in the room today as well. So please feel free to reach out to us at any point. Happy to answer any questions y'all might have or talk about the project generally. And then we've also got a few renderings here if any of you are interested in taking a look at them. Some additional maps as well as renderings about what the project facility will look like, as well as site simulations that have the PV facility digitally inserted as well. This is a general map of the area. As you all noted earlier, there in the yellow south of 19th Street is the solar facility. Directly adjacent will be the hydrogen facility. You can see further to the north the airport as well as MCAS Yuma, and then 195 running on the eastern side of the project site, and then running to the south as well. And then preliminary project layout here that shows the solar facility laid out across the project site on the next slide.
But one question, you're adjacent to the 195 on one side. Are you going to be able to tap into that to run your trucks out of there, or you?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so? Because that's a limited access.
Right. So yeah, and for construction, we wouldn't be.
Yeah, then we'll have to drive. Well, that's important to us because when you drive those large hydrogen, tanks, it's going to take a toll on the roads on that side.
Absolutely.
Next to it. So it'd be nice if we could just simply find a way to tap in and run into the freeway.
And so that's something our green hydrogen partner I know is considering. Their current projections are roughly 10 to 12 trucks per day, so maybe less than you think. Roughly one truck every half hour would run out of the facility. So like I said, this is just a digital rendering of what the facility would look like here, running east-west. So that road where the red truck is running, that would actually be County 19th Street. And then cutting north-south in the other direction would be Avenue 1E. There you can see the green hydrogen facility sited just to the west and north of the larger solar facility. And then on the next slide, we've got a little more of a zoomed out perspective, a higher aerial rendering of the facility. And again, you can see the hydrogen facility there in the lower right of that rendering. And then on the next slide, we've got a series of photo simulations. It's a little hard to tell, but you can see these do have the solar facility digitally inserted. So the top photo here being existing conditions, and then the bottom photo being what that same area would look like with the solar facility installed. So you can see a little bit on the horizon there. It does get a bit darker. That's just the PV panels in the distance. And then we have a few other perspectives as well from across the area as we scroll through these additional slides. So again, you just see a little bit of extra darkness on the horizon there, where you can make out the PV facility in the distance. And then I believe on the next photo, it might be a little more. Might be the next one.
You need to get a little closer.
Yeah. So this one's actually off of 195. In order to be conservative, we assumed for the purposes of this simulation that our panels would come basically right up to the road, the highway right of way. That's actually likely not going to be the case based on our preliminary layout. But again, just to be conservative and provide for the maximum extent of view shed impact possible, we went ahead and included that in this rendering. So the panels here would actually be set back further off from the highway, or that's likely. But again, gives you a visual indication of what this project will look like once installed on the project area. I think that takes us through everything, so hopefully I went through that fast enough, but happy to answer any questions you all might have about the project.
Any questions?
You know, one of my concerns always with an energy producing system is that we'd have a customer. This kind of fits that to me. I mean, you do have a customer for the solar panels, because if it is an APS here, it's difficult to find out who you sell the power to. Yeah. So there's been a lot of solar projects that have not come to fruition because they simply start with a project, something similar to the zoning situation. You start with a project, special use permit, but then you don't find the buyer for the solar farm, so it stops everything. This is, to me, the proper combination. You have the solar farm and then the tenant that will use it, or the user next to it. So I hope this one happens. We're obviously extremely confident, very excited about the opportunity. And you're right, often it is the case where it's
if you build it, they will come type of situation where you have to have a little faith that you're going to find that customer. But yeah, we've had a great partner here. They've been with us throughout our development phase here. They'll all be in front of you themselves here for their SUP as well, specifically for the hydrogen facilities. So.
How much of this is private and how much of this is state trust?
It's a majority state trust land, ASLD land. Around 320 acres or so is private of the roughly 2,600 acres. So it's majority state land.
You're leasing this?
Yeah, we'll be leasing from the state. We've purchased the private property, but the state land will be leased. It'll be long-term commercial lease.
All right, well, I mean, it helps. It helps the education field when we lease enough land.
Yes, it does.
You know, I saw that, and does it go, the money that goes to education, does it go to the education state fund, or is it here locally?
The state trust.
Yeah, I believe it goes to the states.
Goes to the
Well,
state
we don't
trust.
see none of it. We don't see a penny of it.
Very little,
That's-
yes.
There's definitely a significant contribution to the local UMA.
Mhm.
Because of the taxes.
Oh,
And then there's an additional contribution to the state as well.
Yeah. Well, the state manages the state trust land supposedly on behalf of the education, the state education. And supposedly I say because and that's what I think the chairman refers to. He refers to once it goes into the state coffers, we see very little of it coming back.
We
But
see very little.
what we will
yes.
see though is the taxes on the property being increased simply because there's a value attached to it. So you have property tax value that comes in with, and trust land doesn't apply, but you bought the private sector, the private land, and you're gonna develop it into something valuable, which will then bring in an additional income to the county, which is eventually what we look at, not just the job created, because there are some jobs created that are pretty high paying, but they actually use a private land that was followed that nobody used before. And the state trust land removes that from agriculture to us. That's a boom. I mean, people used to think that, just having agriculture was okay, and to protect agriculture, we do protect functioning agriculture, but the fact is, it consumes a lot of water, and water's become an issue over the last few years that has become more and more dire. So to me, this is a win-win situation where we just turn something that's nothing into something. And it's always good to see something.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We've spent a lot of time citing this project to make sure that it was, in an appropriate location, obviously cognizant of water issues as well. That's an issue plaguing the West in general, and especially, prominent here in the South. So, we want it to be
right.
Very cognizant.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and, no, thanks.
Great, thank you very much.
I'll go ahead and open it up to the public.
I thought that was public, and that just.
No, that was the owner, or,
The
all right.
representative, yes.
I'll bring it back to the board.
So the planning is only recommended approval, right?
Yes.
So what we're gonna do is, I wanna make a motion that we go ahead and approve this project based on the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation with all the conditions applied to it. Now, one question to the.
Second that. Go ahead.
One question to the property developer there. There was a performance requirement that you bring back something based on ARS statutes in 60 days. What was that?
Mr. Chairman, that is the ARS 1134 waiver that it's already been submitted to staff.
That's a waiver that is required by the state.
Yeah.
It's required by staff.
Required by staff.
Yes.
Do they know about it?
They've already
They already
submitted it.
submitted.
Good. Okay, all right, fine. Then I made a
Okay,
motion. and-
there's a motion and a second to accept the recommendation from the planning commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Hopefully you go for it and multiply, but just delay.
Moving on to discussion regarding legislative issues. Alejandro?
What, the engineering department is leaving?
Session, nobody is safe.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
I tried that, Alejandro, growing up a beard, but it didn't work out too well. It looked like a skunk. There was some black spots. Yeah, it had some black spots here. That just didn't work.
Pretty terrible.
That looked terrible.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind Alejandro that he now is standing
I
in
saw you
between
on
us
TV,
and
man.
lunch.
You look terrible too.
Did
I really?
Is it Alejandro or is it Tony?
It's a combination
like
of both
you're
Alejandro
sick.
and Tony.
Well, you look like you were sick, man.
I was tired.
Go ahead.
I was
Alejandro.
sick too.
Go ahead, Alejandro.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs Director. I'll be brief. I know I'm between you and lunch. So as of last Friday, the 26th day of the legislative session, there were 1,300 bills introduced so far, 609 for the House and 719 for the Senate, and 90 memorials and resolutions. Last week, several hundred new bills dropped in the Senate as they reached their bill introduction deadline on the 30th, and we should expect to see a final push in the House as the introduction deadline is tomorrow, February the 7th. That said, House members only have a limited number of introductions allowed since the imposition of the 7-bill limit in mid-January. Last week, Senate President Peterson announced the formation of a committee with the sole focus of evaluating Governor Hobbs' appointees to lead state agencies. Such evaluations are typically done by the Relevant Standing Committee, and the creation of a committee dedicated to a specific purpose is new. The committee will be chaired by Senator Jake Hoffman and vice chaired by Senator Sina Kerr. Additionally, there was a push by both chambers to pass out a baseline budget. The Senate heard bills in a quick appropriations committee, then on Cal, and were read and transmitted to the House on February the 1st. The House heard the baseline budget bills in appropriations committee, but they have not yet gone to Cal. Legislative Democrats are in opposition, stating that neither they nor the governor have had the opportunity to negotiate on budget issues. Therefore, it is very likely that these bills will be met with a swift veto at the governor's office. I would like to inform the Board of Supervisors that the CSA is asking that this Yuma County Board of Supervisors signs in opposition to SB 1245 BLT, cities and towns and counties, sponsored by Farnsworth, in the legislature's request to speak system. The bill is scheduled to be heard in the Senate Transportation Committee this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Last Friday, the CSA LPC voted to oppose SB 1245, which reduces county general fund revenue by $295 million annually. Counties have always received a portion of the vehicle license taxes for general fund purposes, but SB 1245 would require the counties use the general fund portion for only transportation purposes. Additionally, the bill would reallocate those resources across counties using unincorporated population rather than the current methodology, which is by county of vehicle registration. The table on the screen shows the anticipated general fund impact to each county. Close to $8 million for Yuma County, which is about 7% of Yuma County's general fund. The property rate required to recover the loss in revenue is 55 cents for Yuma County, and whether or not a county has a levy limit capacity to make up the revenue on the property tax, which in our county's case, we cannot do that. Additionally, the table includes the increase in available transportation revenues for the county. So that would mean that the county will be swapping the $8 million that we get on the general fund for 11.7 to be used specifically on transportation, for transportation purposes. So that's what the CSA is asking. The LPC, Legislative Policy Committee from the CSA, is asking us, or asking the board to sign in opposition to this bill.
Yeah.
You know, for a legislature that says they want to stay out of, the people's business, they certainly do get involved a lot with the way we run.
Why not?
I agree.
Every time they say that, I think.
Yeah.
It's like
I can tell you stories, Mr. Reyes.
Who proposed this bill? You know?
This is Farnsworth.
Okay, thank you.
Just to give you a quick timeline of the meetings that will be taking place, the committee meetings taking place this week at the state legislature. I'll move on to the federal items. President Joe Biden is scheduled to, yes, Mr. Vice Reyes.
If anybody asked us at all, anyone at all, you or anyone, to go testify in favor or against any of these bills yet?
No, not yet.
But we
Just,
need to
just
sign
signing in,
You need
yes.
to, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would just suggest that people sign in.
In
It
our
really,
position.
it really is a non-functioning government up there.
All right. Yep. So President Biden is scheduled to deliver his State of the State Union address tomorrow, Tuesday, February the 7th at 7 o'clock. The president is expected to address issues like the economy, infrastructure, and hopefully the border. As it's been mentioned before in this meeting, NACO's, a few of the members of the County Board of Supervisors will be attending NACO's, which is the National Association of Counties, Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. from February the 11th through the 14th. I would like to let the board know that the House will be out of session during those days. So I've been trying to confirm some meetings with staff at this point in time. And some of the meetings that we have managed to confirm are with the Chief of Staff of Representative Grijalva on the 13th, the Legislative Director for Greg Stanton, Representative Greg Stanton on the 14th, and a meeting with Senator Kelly at 4 o'clock on the 14th. There are some other potential meetings with the Chief of Staff for Representative Gallego and a potential breakfast with Senator Sinema and Kelly on the 14th. Last week, I joined a conference call with Anthony Papian. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Staff Director for the Subcommittee on Government Operations and Border Management, in preparation for a potential meeting with Senator Kristen Sinema, who shares the subcommittee. I'll have the opportunity to discuss some of the ongoing challenges and expenses that Yuma County continues to incur because of the situation of our shared border with Mexico. President Biden announced that he plans to end the national COVID emergency in May of this year, which, if allowed by the courts, this announcement would also mean the end of Title 42 on May 11th. The Title 42 policy, as written, states that it may be lifted when the public health emergency is officially over, or the CDC director determines that the danger of further introduction of COVID-19 into the U.S. has declined, such that the continuation of the order is no longer necessary to protect public health. I would also like to inform the board that I've coordinated an initial meeting between economic development professionals from across Yuma County and Marisol Flores Aguirre, who is the governor's Southern Arizona office director, to take place on March 1st via Zoom. We'll share with her some of the latest projects taking place in Yuma County, and we hope to learn more of the governor's vision for Southern Arizona. On March 2nd, as the lead of the Forefront TD's Education Committee, I'll be traveling across the border to Sonora State University campus in San Luis, Colorado, to start a conversation on a potential MOU on binational agriculture research between our local and state higher education institutions with Sonora State University. Mr. Chairman, any questions, members of the board, or should I just continue on to the federal priorities?
Yeah, go ahead.
So as presented last time, and thank you for your guidance last meeting. I made some edits to the federal priorities that are being proposed at this point in time. I made changes to some of the words, and I added more details to the 6th point, which is supporting comprehensive immigration reform. I don't know if the chairman wants me to go through all of them one by one, or if you have any questions.
Unless you have any questions.
Just a comment. I don't know if really the word for us supporting agricultural labor enhancement would be reform. Agricultural labor reform legislation. I would just put agricultural labor legislation. I think reform implies something that everybody
Has negative connotations.
Yeah, it's like we're asking the thing to be changed totally. I think what we are asking is
Everybody
for them to
pushes back.
widen. We're supporting the labor. We're supporting that, and we just want it to widen a little bit. I think asking for them to reform the system is asking for too much. And if we keep it manageable, I think it sounds a lot better. Now, immigration reform is immigration reform. That one you can't, really tailor. But the other one, I think what we're asking is support. Support for two things mainly. One is that the numbers increase, and second, that we don't get to share them with the, I think it's the milk industry.
Yes.
Dairy.
Dairy. Oh,
Dairy.
it's the cattle industry.
Cattle industry.
That covers both
Dairy.
meat and
Yeah.
dairy.
Those are the two issues that we want them to try to work with. I don't know if they call them, anything you call reform right now has a connotation that, it splits people. I don't want to take people, for people to take sides. I want to make sure that they understand that what we got, it's what we got, but we like.
Don't
at
we
least
want to
Yuba County
lengthen?
Have more.
And don't we want to lengthen the number of years that we can keep bringing them back?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right now, it's only 3 years and they just are getting.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, Supervisor Pancrasi, yes, the items, the talking points include removing the 3-year visa cap.
Yes.
And
there
providing
you go.
sufficient visas for full-time agricultural workers. Now, the split between the agricultural workers and the dairy was part of a legislation that hasn't been resubmitted or reconsidered now in this 118 Congress. So we're just sticking to those two items that we know are ongoing, which is a cap and asking for sufficient visas. Now, Supervisor Reyes, that was a typo on the presentation. The actual talking points, the actual document has been changed to include enhancement and to say Yuma County Regis Conference State Agricultural Labor legislation as a means of improving the H-2A program. So that was a typo and
To the H-2A temporary agricultural program, yeah. Remove the cap and provide sufficient visas for full-time agricultural workers. Yeah, I see it. Right.
And I would like to thank the Arizona Farm Bureau for helping me get some of that data.
Good.
That wasn't easy, but I managed to get it. And thank the Yuma County Sheriff's Office for the help with the data presented on the 6th item supporting comprehensive immigration reform.
Good. Any questions for Alejandro?
Yeah, Alejandro, when you mentioned the support comprehensive immigration reform, and there's a mention there of the Yuma County Sheriff's Office, who recovered 70 deceased migrants, and you cost that out to 20,000 just in deputy salaries. Would it be appropriate to just simply add that stuff up, or are you going to leave it so they can figure it out? 70 times 20 is.
No, it was actually. I had to crunch some numbers. That was a total amount based on the hourly rate.
Total amount was 20,000 for all 70.
Right.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just from deputy salaries. That's not including the medical staff who had to.
Yeah, that's just okay. I just don't want them to think that that's all it costs. Right, because it does. It isn't.
It's just deputy salaries. That's and for recovering those bodies.
Because is the coroner involved in that?
Yes.
Is that cost included in there?
No. What I realized from doing some research on this issue is that we don't have data available, and throughout my meetings with, the subcommittee last week on Board of Management, they are asking for more information. They would really benefit from receiving more information. So part of my meeting with Marisol next week or in March is, having the entire Southern Arizona come up with data, counties and cities that would support, immigration reform, including costs, obviously.
You're not taking into account wear and tear on the vehicles and fuel and.
Right. No, that's.
Mr. Chairman, Alejandro, I think it would be critical to try to put together some type of an estimate.
Total? You mean the total cost?
Yeah, total cost. I know that it's difficult, but we will have the opportunity to host the Judiciary Committee in Yuma within the next month. They'll be holding a federal hearing here specifically on this stuff. So the sheriff and I have been preparing for that. It's not announced yet, not necessarily.
The state or the federal?
Federal. Federal Oversight Committee or Federal Judicial Committee will be here specifically to deal with the border issues.
And who's the chair?
Jim Jordan.
I'm not here. I'll be in the Gulf in a safer place.
So the sheriff and I have been working on that to tee that up. So I would ask for you to put together your best estimates.
I would have, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lyons, I would have to go to every county agency and try to get those numbers. It took a couple of months to get the data that I have right now.
You'll have probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Just get a round number.
Round number.
Look, when you talk about like 735 emergencies, I mean, there are different departments.
Yeah.
So you try to get a.
But if we have a
assess-
summation.
Yeah. You know, just an average. I mean,
And you
it's
might,
very
yeah,
difficult.
hospital, have you asked the hospital?
Dr. Trenchell's going to testify,
Good,
as well as others in the community.
good.
All right.
Move on, dude.
They're coming up with some verbiage.
Good.
Any other questions for Alejandro?
Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate it if the board could vote and approve the legislative priorities, or if you want to postpone that.
Well, the problem with voting on something that isn't as an action item, is this an action item? Is it listed as an action item? It says current events.
No legal action.
Yeah.
No.
You need to request a board action, yeah.
What's this now?
And I would second that we prioritize the federal legislative priorities as outlined.
Thank you.
This motion second, right? Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, going to call for the vote? Just be done with it?
Just discussion or?
Oh, still figuring it out.
No,
I'm
it-
still
it-
figuring
it-
out.
it
I
doesn't
think
say-
says-
it doesn't
says
say-
Request board
It
action.
says
but-
action.
It just says
possible
action.
Yeah, it
Possible
says
action.
possible action.
And
So I
possible
guess,
action.
yeah, I guess you can. get
Action
that-
Jackson.
I guess you can get that covered by
Okay.
that statement, requested board action. But-
So what was the
Okay,
motion?
but let me just back up a little bit. It does say no legal action will be taken. So what does that mean in an attorney kind of way? I mean, you know, the chairman's right. I mean, there is a statement that says no legal action will be taken. Are we taking legal action when we make a motion in a second?
I don't see where you're seeing that.
Okay, it says in here in the agenda, regular agenda, event calendar, it says requested board action, says board members and county minister will report on events. Oh, shoot, I'm in the.
You're in the wrong one.
I'm in the wrong one, dude. I take it back. It's Alejandro's report.
Yes, county administration.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Well, we've moved it and.
Do it, don't do it, but it's not.
Oh, it does say presentation and discussion. Approve Yuma County's federal, you've got it, you take it.
Approve.
I was-
Okay, yeah,
I was looking at
approve.
us.
All right. Well, there's a motion and a second to approve the Yuma County 2020 federal legislative priorities. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
One
you,
last thing
Alejandro.
before you leave, the consulate, the Mexican consulate, is changed. So, you know, we brought, maybe it'd be
that's
nice
right.
to invite him. Yeah, the guy, I think that he was reassigned.
Larios.
Larios was reassigned, and there's a new consulate here. It'd probably be proper to sort of invite him to one of the meetings, so it's like introduce himself, and so we get to know who he is as a board. I mean, I can visit, but.
Chairman, members of the board, it's a she, and I emailed the board last week, you know, with the name and the background of this individual. Now, she is not here just yet. She'll be here later on this month.
Or when she is, you know, just send her a formal invitation to come over so we can, you know, find out.
Yes.
Meet her, I guess. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Alejandro. Moving on to events and calendar and current events.
I got it this time.
Good.
I'm on today.
All right.
I attended the CSA Board of Directors meetings. I had my meeting with Ian to discuss some issues. I attended WACOG, my Regional Council on Aging. I attended 2 AEA meetings. One was, it's a lunchtime, it's called Power Hour, and it's just about legislation that's coming up. And then a legislative update through AEA. It's in the evening, and so I attended both of those. I attended my Arizona at Work, the provider meetings, and whether or not they're meeting their quotas and all that stuff that's required by the state. I attended the audit committee for YMPO, and our audit came back very clean, and the only suggestion they had, of course, every auditor has to have a suggestion. They don't ever say nothing, so, or anything. is that the treasurer of our board check out the credit card receipts, so once a month, and that's the only thing they could find that we needed to do. And then I attended the YMPO board meeting. I attended CSA Legislative Policy Committee. I attended Women in Ag and Water Conference. I attended the Yuma 50 meeting. That was a really good meeting that we had there. I went to the superintendent's roundtable meeting, which was all the county superintendents in town, and the our county superintendent Tom Hurt, and the director of ACO. She did a presentation on how to talk to your legislator and for all the superintendents. So it was interesting, and for them it was good. So I attended the Yuma County Chamber of Commerce Legislative Affairs meeting, and I rode in the parade for the rodeo parade, and I attended the Redondo Day dinner put on by the Historical Society. So that's what I did.
Almost nothing.
I had an in-person meeting with one of our new Arizona representatives, Eli Crane, who actually is from Yuma. We discussed PILT and the border and the exorbitant costs associated with that. I also had phone conversations with Representatives Biggs, Gosar, Lesko, Schweikert, and Cisco-Monte. Again, talking about the same issues. Had a couple of phone conversations with Senator Kelly's staff, your primo, Luis Garedia, and then one staffer from Chief of Staff for Senator Kelly's office. Met with a few different constituents that are concerned about upcoming items on our agenda, and attended about half the meetings that Lynn did. I pretended to be the new county administrator.
Yeah,
no, I
really,
showed up to the wrong meeting in Phoenix, and that was fun. But basically the same information, just an hour later, which was a very informative meeting. Or I actually did a presentation on water, so it was good that I was there. And a few other things, Mr. Chairman. I'm a slacker.
Election Advisory Board had a community meeting out in the foothills, which ended up having to turn people away because the room got too full. So people had to.
At the foothills?
Yeah. Attended the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing to listen to upcoming items before the board, and then just met with numerous people reference to some zoning issues.
Chris?
I live in San Luis, so that was interesting. It's too much to get into details. Suffice it to say, I survived a couple of meetings, one with the Vision Group in the morning, and a couple of other meetings with constituents. And basically, that's pretty much it.
All right. I attended the YMPO meeting, and I was also at I went to the right meeting at the CSA.
Well, it wasn't wrong. It was just, geared towards somebody else.
And that's pretty much it. Josh?
It was good that I was there because Josh was having technical issues with the audio.
I think everybody was.
Yeah.
It was, really hard to hear. But, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to pass.
All right.
Wise man. I was learning pretty fast. Let's say.
Meeting adjourned.